In today's video, I'll reveal the original guest character for Kombat Pack 3. I have no clue if NetherRealm changed their mind since, but the recent polls by Ed Boon make it seem likely, because why ask the fans which guest character they want next if you've already decided? So since I believe the original guest character was most likely cancelled, I think it's okay to reveal her today. And that's right, this would have been the first female guest in NetherRealm history. Despite having 17 guest characters already across several NetherRealm games, none of them have ever been a lady, which some people care about and other people don't care about whatsoever. But even so, I think it's a fun clue to get your mind racing. And don't worry, I'm not gonna wait until the end of the video to reveal it, so stay tuned and let me know in the comments which character you think it is. Alright, to start today's video, let's discuss some other recent news about Mortal Kombat 1, because about 1 week ago, Ed Boon began a voting tournament on Threads. That's right, the creator of Mortal Kombat 1 wanted to know which guest character fans loved the most, which is interesting enough by itself, but many people online, myself included, believe this tournament is being used by NetherRealm to decide the next guest character. And if that theory is true, then it means Kombat Pack 3 could most likely be happening. Some theorize that WB Games decided to keep this game going after the Pink Floyd event, because it showed that tons of players are still very interested in this game, and in my honest opinion, Chaos Reigns sold poorly because it gender swapped two famous characters, and also it was way too darn expensive. However, WB Games misunderstood the situation and assumed that players just didn't want to buy any more Mortal Kombat 1 content, which is not even close to true. If you added fan favorite characters like Jade, Nightwolf, and Cabal to the game, I guarantee you that people would buy, as long as the price is reasonable and you don't change too much about the characters. You have to meet the players halfway here. We love buying new characters for our favorite games, just don't change those characters too much and make them reasonably priced. Don't charge too much. That's the golden rule, but then again, as I say this, Nintendo is charging a ton for their next console and all of their games are going to be way more expensive too, and I bet people are still gonna buy it. Even though it's a slap to the face and is gonna make them bankrupt, they'll still buy these games and that expensive console. How much you wanna bet? I'm not a gambling man, so I'm not gonna bet, but if I was, I'd wager that people are still gonna buy that extremely expensive console and also the overpriced games too. Which means maybe you could charge anything for Kombat Pack 3 if it includes the fan favorite characters and they're really fun to play, but I still stand against that. It should not be crazy expensive. The Chaos Reigns DLC was way too pricey. But I digress. Let's have a quick look at this poll on Threads to see which guest character was the favorite, and there are some surprises here. Everyone expected Spawn to beat Ghostface and Jason Voorhees to beat the T-1000, but Omni-Man losing to Freddy Krueger was something I did not see coming, mainly because Season 3 of Invincible just happened, so Omni-Man is fresh in everybody's minds. Meanwhile, Freddy Krueger hasn't had a film for a while, and yet he won the polls, but I'm wondering if that's just because people have rose-tinted glasses for MK9, because that game was very fun to play. Freddy himself was a nightmare though, no pun intended. The man could run away the entire match and just spam keep away. It was awful to play against. Freddy Krueger as a keep away character might be more frightening than any of his movies. But then here at the end of the poll in the grand finals, we have Spawn versus Predator, two iconic characters that fans love and dream inclusions to the Mortal Kombat roster. And as you can see on screen, Spawn won, but it was close. Even so, it appears that Spawn is the most beloved guest character in NetherRealm history, which is honestly no surprise. This character screams Mortal Kombat. He's from the comics, he's had animated shows on HBO and a couple of films, so Spawn is everywhere. He's got video games too, and of course he was in Mortal Kombat 11, the best-selling Mortal Kombat game to ever exist, and in fact one of the best-selling fighting games in history, which is a crazy fact that I never get tired of mentioning, because despite releasing in 2018, Mortal Kombat 11 has outsold many fighting games that came out decades before, despite those games having tons of re-releases. Mortal Kombat 11 is still a top 3 fighting game, and actually the best-selling fighting game if you don't count Smash Bros, which I do, but some people don't consider Smash Brothers a fighting game. So my point is, not only was Spawn a popular character in his own right, but also he was a guest character in Mortal Kombat 11, the best-selling game in the series, which as a result makes perfect sense why he would win the polls. But what does this mean? Are we going to get Spawn as the guest character in Kombat Pack 3 or possibly the next Mortal Kombat game? In fact, even if we get Injustice 3, I feel like Spawn would be a fantastic inclusion because he's a comic book character. Or in other words, we could be getting Spawn Spawn as a guest character no matter what comes next, whether it's Kombat Pack 3, another Mortal Kombat game, or even Injustice 3, Spawn could be the next character. However, there's also possibility number 2, where we don't get Spawn, but instead another character from his series, or possibly just another comic book character. And I say that because typically guest characters do not repeat. Not only in Mortal Kombat games, but even in other fighting games, typically you don't get the same guest character back to back. The only exception is when the sequel is clearly the previous game with some new bells and whistles, maybe a graphics update, but essentially it's the previous game and they copied over a bunch of assets from that previous game to the new one, and that includes the guest character. In that very rare and specific situation, you get the same guest character twice, but that's not going to happen with the next NetherRealm inclusion, which is why it's possible that Spawn is never coming back, but we could get another Spawn character or simply a violent comic book character to match his awesomeness. As you all know, I love making these videos interactive, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll make sure to reply to a bunch of you because I want to know who you think is next for Mortal Kombat. Is it gonna be Spawn? Is that what this whole poll was about by Ed Boon? Are they actually going to bring back the fan favorite guest character? Or is it gonna be someone different but in the same vein as the person who won? So in this example, a comic book character. Because Spawn won, and therefore NetherRealm knows that fans like violent comic book characters as a DLC. Everyone watching already knows that I love reading each and every comment, so grab that keyboard and make your voices heard. Because now finally, it's time to reveal the original guest character planned for Kombat Pack 3, and I've actually known this information for months, but I never revealed it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I usually only accept leaks if it's data mining or if I otherwise own the content that I'm talking about. For example, I own Mortal Kombat 1, so I think it's fair game to talk about the stuff in the files for the game, the data files for example. For me personally, that's fair game. Some people might disagree, but I draw the line at somebody stealing a screenshot from the studio or leaking something from the studio itself. I'm never a fan of that. Covering rumors and speculation is one thing. For example, Mortal Kombat 1 getting cancelled, that was a rumor, it had no confirmation whatsoever, so I thought covering it was completely fine. But if someone working at NetherRealm had actually confirmed the game was cancelled with proof and solid evidence, that would have been a different story. And when it comes to this guest character, that's kind of what happened. Somebody at NetherRealm straight up leaked a screenshot of the roster and showed this guest in the character select screen. They're straight up there. In fact, it was actually a video, which could still be faked, but it's much harder to fake a video than a screenshot. Not to mention, the person who leaked this was working at NetherRealm, and the only reason I'm talking about any of this is because I'm 90% certain that NetherRealm has canceled this character and is making somebody else instead, so it should be okay to talk about him. And I want everybody watching to brace yourself, because chances are you're not gonna like this guest character, because I know I did not get happy when I heard this information. In my opinion, this guest character would have divided the community. Some people would have liked her, but others would have said, really? That character? Out of everybody? You put her in the game? That's how I felt personally, which is why I'm telling everybody to sit down, because you're gonna feel it when you hear this information. The original guest character for Kombat Pack 3 was none other than Harley Quinn. That's right, the thumbnail lied to you. I wanted to keep it a mystery. I can't just show who it is in the thumbnail because that spoils all the fun. But similar to Joker's inclusion in Mortal Kombat 11, Mortal Kombat 1 was going to feature Harley Quinn for the same reasons. She's a violent serial killer who people don't mind watching get cut to bits, but also she's very famous and popular, so it kind of makes sense to include her because she's popular, she's violent, and as mentioned earlier, there's never been a female guest character, so she would have checked that box too. However, with all of that said, I feel like players don't want another DC character because it feels like a lazy Injustice tie-in number one, and also we had the Joker, so what's the difference really gonna be here? A clown character with a bunch of crazy bombs and setups. She's gonna use a baseball bat instead of the lead pipe the Joker used, but fundamentally it's a big melee weapon combined with guns, along with silly props from the comics, very similar to Joker. In many ways, Harley Quinn would have felt like Joker even if she played differently. It would have felt the same overall, if that makes sense. Which is why I don't think she would have been the best inclusion, but then on top of that, the Sushi Squad game was infamous. Everybody hates that game right now. Well, not everybody. My buddy personally enjoyed it, but a ton of people, in fact I would argue the vast majority of gamers, hate this game and everything it stands for, which unfortunately means Harley Quinn is also kinda hated at the moment too, so including her would be a huge mistake. And on top of that, it would have been a gun character, and I'm so tired of gun characters after Mortal Kombat 11. Even though I like Harley Quinn as a character and even enjoy playing her in the Injustice games, I still don't want her in Mortal Kombat 1 because she's a gun character, and I'm so tired of projectile heavy keep away zoners and just gun characters in general in my Mortal Kombat games, because I just don't think it's a good fit, with rare exceptions like Stryker and Aaron Black, because those are the gun characters. You can't take their guns away. But there you have it, everyone, the original intended guest character for Kombat Pack 3, which I'm pretty sure NetherRealm has changed by now. For me personally, Blood Rain would be a much cooler character, which is why I put her in the thumbnails, but I doubt that NetherRealm's gonna put her in because it would just be too perfect. Although sometimes NetherRealm does include the perfect guest character. Just look at Kratos, Predator, and Spawn. Sometimes this studio does get it right and include the perfect guest character, so maybe Blood Rain is still on the table, fingers crossed. No matter what the case may be, I'm just happy that Mortal Kombat 1 is getting some more content. Even if we don't get Story Mode Part 3, we likely are still getting some more characters along with new skins and some gameplay updates as well. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please leave a like down below, it helps the channel out a ton, and then finish that combo by subscribing and ringing that bell so you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.